welcome back to Let's Play Saga Red Dead, where we play Red Dead Redemption 2 and tell cowboy stories. And in this regard, we're not really going to tell a cowboy story, we're going to tell a Native American story.
What do you want?
So, today I'm going to tell the saga of Sitting Bull.
What's my name?
Mind you,
patient too, if you hadn't noticed.
I grew up with all of these stories.
Jim Boy Calloway?
We're going to talk to this man for just a minute, and then we will get right into it.
Don't matter. I need you to tell me about Jim Boy. Just a quote for a book.
A book about Jim Boy? Shit. I can't talk to you now. Look at me. I'm knee-deep in hog crap.
Well, don't mind me. We can talk while you work.
I ain't talking and shoveling. Besides, young man like you get it done in half the time.
I don't know about that.
What's to know? You interested in the old days? You shoveled this shit, I tell you some stories. You keep your hands clean, I don't give you squat.
God damn it. These better be some stories.
Oh, they are.
Alright. So, I'm just going to tell you right now, I do not speak the Lakota language, so I'm probably going to butcher this next pronunciation, and I apologize for it severely. So, but Sitting Bull was a Hunkpapa Lakota leader, alright, who lived with his, who led his people during the years of resistance against the United States government. Now, he is probably most famous for his interactions at the Little Bighorn and probably his years with the Wild West show, with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. So we'll talk about the Little Bighorn a little bit, and then we'll move on to the Wild West show after.
What about Calloway?
So, on June 25th, in 1876, Custer scouts discovered Sitting Bull's camp along the Little Bighorn River. Okay. After being ordered to attack, Custer's 7th Cavalry, cavalry's troopers, lost ground quickly and were forced to retreat. Sitting Bull's followers, led into battle by Crazy Horse, counterattacked and ultimately defeated Custer while surrendering and laying siege to the other two battalions led by Reno and Benton. Now, they did lay siege to him, and they didn't carry a lot of food with them, and then that was a problem because hunger and desperation eventually forced Sitting Bull and his 186 of his family and followers to return
Don't trifle with me, old man. You knew
away, but they did win the battle at the Little Bighorn.
Words is all. Give me something to say and I'll leave you
Now,
alone. You owe me that.
in 1881, they eventually surrendered. The American government had just finally forced them into it. But they fought a long fight, man. They from 76 to 81. That was a long fight back then. Hell, that's a long fight now. So, Sitting Bull had his son, Crowfoot, surrender his Winchester lever-action carbine to Major David Brotherton, the commanding officer of Fort Buford. Sitting Bull said to Brotherton, I wish it to be remembered that I was the last man of my tribe to surrender my rifle. So, part of his surrender was that he was not allowed to leave the reservation. That was part of the deal the American government made with him. He was not allowed to leave the reservation. However, sometime later, the American government gave him leave to join Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. So he went with Buffalo Bill on tour, and he earned about $50 a week, equal to about $1,508 today a week, for riding once around the arena. and he was a very popular attraction.
Mr. Granger.
After the Wild West show, he returned
You earned yourself a killing.
to the reservation.
I'm gonna enjoy it now.
Now, Sitting Bull returned to Standing
Gonna be
Rock
the last thing you do.
agency after working with the Wild West show, and the tensions between Sitting Bull and Agent McClellan, or McLaughlin, sorry, increased, and each became wary of the other over several issues, including a division of sale of parts of the Great Sioux Reservation. The American government was taken, and given nothing, which is what the American government tends to do. Now, a Pawnee Indian named Wavoko, he was part of a religious movement. He was a leader of a religious movement in Nevada, in the eastward to the plains, and he preached the resurrection of the native. It was known as the Ghost Dance movement because it called on the Native Americans to dance and chant for the raising up of the deceased relatives and the return of the buffalo. They were effectively talking about revolution, try to bring back and fight against the American government. Now, the Ghost Dancers were trying to gain supporters. Now, Sitting Bull let them come to Standing Rock and allowed them to gather there in camp, although he did not appear to participate in any of the activities. He was viewed as a key instigator, and alarm spread to the nearby white settlements. In 1890, James McLaughlin, the U.S. Indian agent in Fort Yates on Standing Rock Agency, he feared that the Lakota leader was about to flee the reservation with the Ghost Dancers and start a revolution. So he ordered the police to arrest him. Now, around 5:30 a.m. on December 15th, 39 police officers and 4 volunteers approached Sitting Bull's house. They surrounded the house, knocked and entered. Bullhead, who was the chief police officer there, a Native American, which is just god-awful that they were doing this to their own, told Sitting Bull that he was under arrest and led him outside. Now, a close quarters fight erupted, and within minutes, several men were dead. I think there were 11 total dead, and a couple of horses. But the police killed Sitting Bull, or rather murdered Sitting Bull there. He was doing nothing wrong, and they were going to arrest him anyway, and they ended up killing him. They ended up taking him from his family. Sitting Bull's body was taken to Fort Yates, where it was placed in a coffin and buried, and a monument was installed to mark his burial site after his remains were reportedly taken there. Now, in 1953, and it took that long for this to happen, Lakota family members were able to finally exhume Sitting Bull's remains and transport them and reinter them near Standing Rock. At his birthplace, and a monument was erected there. This is a sad story of a great warrior who fought a very, very long, very hard fight. And the movies, at least a lot of the older movies, they depict the Native American as more as a savage than anything, and in some of them they're actually quite respectful of the Native American. But you're looking at people who didn't grow up with guns. They didn't have these things. Now, they did get a hold of them and they learned how to use them. But you're looking at people who were massively technologically under advanced. They did not have as much access to ammunition and things like that, who were able to wage a war against the cavalry, who were very well trained, who were well armed and well supplied. And they waged this war for 6 years. And that's insane to me, that they were able to fight as hard and as long as they did. And I think overwhelming numbers just eventually got them. But these were some very determined, very proud people, and rightly so. They were warriors. And it is very sad to see how this eventually ended up turning out, that the government does what the government does best, and they stuck their nose where it doesn't go, and they ended up killing this man because they thought something was going on. And that's and to see that that Bullhead, who was actually one of the men who ended up dying, a Native American himself working for the agency, was the man doing the arresting. It is just, it's sad to see how far some of that fell. But this man led an amazing life, and as an old man, got into a fight, a close quarters fight, where there were 39 police officers, armed police officers, and armed volunteers at his door. Got into a close quarters fight as an old man, and 11 men ended up dead. One of them being him. Absolutely astoundingly amazing that he lived this life, and it is so sad that it ended up ending the way it did. But his legacy for sure lived on, and just, you know, all respect to this man. I never did get to see his grave when I lived out west, but I grew up hearing stories about Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and Custer, and knowing what kind of piece of shit Custer was, and hearing how great these men were. And you know, like, you live in today's world and you hear about things like cultural appropriation and all of that, and you know, it was a common game to play when we were kids out west and whatnot, to play cowboys and Indians. And you know, we call them Native Americans now, and everyone's got a problem nowadays. But I'm telling you what, back then when you could buy the Native American headdresses real easy, and nobody gave two shits if you wore it and you were white and whatnot. I'm telling you this, when I was the Indians, when I was the Native Americans, when we were playing cowboys and Indians as children, I was very proud to take up the mantle of people like Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. Very proud, because these were heroes to me too. And like, I think that the world today has gotten into a very, very strange place where everybody is looking for something to be wrong, and they've all got a problem. And like, you know, if I were running around today when I was a little kid, and I was running around today and I was dressed up like a Native American, people would have so much problem with it. What they don't realize is that I was dressing up as some of my heroes too, and I was honoring those men. And maybe not everybody in the world's bad, and that's the thing, man. Like, if you read this story, you read the story of a man who led a great life, a warrior who led a great life, and he deserves as much respect as any of the others. Because Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, Wild Bill Hickok, Wyatt Earp, these were the men I grew up idolizing. These were my heroes when I was a child. And I didn't look down on any of them. And I lived close to the Sioux Reservation. I knew some Native Americans when I was younger. They were great people. They were just people, though, and that's the thing. They were people, just like anyone else. We're all human on this planet. We all have good in us, we all have bad in us, and we all need to get through it together. So, when you watch some of these movies, especially the older ones, and you see these people depicted as savages, just know that that's not true. They were amazing people, and I give as much respect as I can. So, hopefully you enjoyed this story. Sorry for getting up on my soapbox for a minute, but the world's in a weird place right now, so, you know. But next week, we will talk about Buffalo Bill Cody and go ahead and put an end to this 3-part little mini-series about people from the Wild West show. And hopefully you all enjoy everything. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. See what changes we can make. And I will see you all next week. Thank you very much for watching.
Good morning.
How you doing? I can't complain. That's what I like to hear.
Morning.
I ain't cleaned myself in weeks. Herr Morgan! Herr Morgan!
Mr. Strauss?
You busy, my friend?
Why?
I'll cut you in.
Loaning? Already?
You know how it is. People is happy to borrow off someone like me, but more enthusiastic paying back to someone like you.
Of course. Who are they?
Let me see. Chick Matthews works at Guthrie Farm. He's a hand, I believe. Mr. Roble, the small holder at Painted Sky, runs the operations there, badly. Miss Lily Millet is a ranch maid up at Emerald Ranch.
And here was me believing Dutch's bluster about us helping folk.
It's legal work, Mr. Morgan. Debtors belong in prison. We are doing them a favor.
Aye. And I'll make sure they see it in them terms.
Put the debts in the deed box and try not to kill them. It's very bad for business.